Article 2. What is the mark of a truly great and extraordinary soul? In the midst of the grieving and the rejoicing, I not only learned, but I also experienced something that was incredibly profound during those 10 days. I learned that it is only a truly great soul that blesses you with gifts in living and then blesses you even more so in dying. I experienced the fecundity of Tata giving his death away to South Africa and to the rest of the world, even as he once gave his life away. He lived for South Africa, and the extraordinary depth and richness of our grief and our celebrations made me realize that he also died for us. And in that, he gave us a double gift, his life as well as his death. We all know that during the last years of his life, Madiba had exited the public stage, so to speak. Those of us who were either too caught up in our own agendas or were just simply speaking, not observant enough, did not often think of this great statesman during those final years. I will take a guess and posit that many of us, me included, would plead mea culpa in respect of having somehow forgotten him during that time. So, even though we all knew that he was still around, we did not pay much attention either to his presence or to his legacy and his memory. Unfortunately, this attitude of neglect then meant that we lost the essence of the latent gift of his presence with us in the final season of his mortal life. It is often said that the beauty of hindsight is 20/20 vision. How true. Looking back, I realized that Madiba's absence during those years had much to teach us and much to remind us in respect of the age-old truths of life. If only we had been a little wiser and a little more alert, we would have seen that he affirmed the fact that if one does the aging process well, you gift people with your life in a different way when it's drawing to its end. By the aging process, I'm not referring to a mere chronology of life in terms of numbers and dates. Rather, what I'm talking about is an ever-increasing maturity and authenticity of character, about a life that expands and ferments like a good wine or a good cheese, even as you enter deeper and deeper into the experience of being human and ultimately into the journey of dying. Tata aged well. And so, in hindsight, during the latter years of his life, he, notwithstanding the fact that he did not speak to us in words and in direct presence, nevertheless managed to speak an even greater language. It was a language of the presence of an old and seasoned soul. This language defies the measuring of human usefulness and contribution in terms of activity, explicit productivity, and direct utility. Rather, it articulates the gift of a grounded character that brings particular qualities to every scene and adds intricacy and depth by the mere power and authenticity of presence, in contrast to absence. When he was gone, we realized that in the end season of his life, Tata gave us these gifts. The late Henry Nouwen once wrote that, "It is only when we have died that our spirits can completely reveal themselves." Madiba's spirit completely revealed itself to us in December 2013. For a sacred and almost frozen period in time, we were caught up, so to speak, in the spirit of Madiba, lit up with fire as with divinity. The greatness of his soul expressed itself in the beauty, the creativity, the surprises, and the simplicity and complexity of those 10 days. Never was the nation so inspired around every corner to express itself in a diverse way. In marches and in walks, in speeches, in music, in dance and in poetry, all seemingly ad infinitum. During those 10 days, the entire myriad of South African citizens and communities from multifaceted walks of life somehow found its place in the greater tapestry of saying goodbye to Tata. And as we did that, we seem to form a beautiful collage of a blended way of expressing our uniqueness in the midst of a miraculously integrated diversity. How can anyone forget the tangible expression of Mandela's reconciled South Africa, which was so palpable during those 10 days? The chief rabbi, leading those who were in attendance at the interfaith service at the Center of Memory on the 8th of December in Mudimo Ribuka Wena, Tsohle Tsohle Di Entoki Wena. Danny Kaye singing, "Homeless, homeless, in moonlight sleeping on the midnight train," and doing the steps and the dance in a way that would have made each member of Ladysmith Black Mambazo, in particular Mshengu Shabalala himself, incredibly proud. It was during those days that we got each other, immaterial of the color of our skin, or our social stature, or our views on economics and on political issues. It was then that we seemed like we somehow smiled more at each other, were kinder to each other, were gentler, more understanding, and more patient with each other. During those 10 days, we were a true and lived expression of the Rainbow Nation. There was pain, but there was also an abundance of joy. It was a joy that I'm certain we shared with Tata in death, even as he shared it with us in life. For how can we not remember how we watched many clips that were reminiscent of Tata's wicked sense of humor and his laughter? It was these clips that reminded us that, through it all, Tata was a man who was intoxicated with joy, who proved the fact that, in laughter, we intuit our transcendence. He was now absent in December 2013, but in his absence, we were curiously far more intimate with him than we had been in the final season of his life. I hope that many of us can testify about the fact that being intimate with a person is a curious thing. Inside intimacy, presence and absence play on each other in such a way that on any given day in a relationship, one or the other have a deeper connection. In his going away, in his death and in his absence, we felt Tata's presence and his love without barriers. Many of us experienced, perhaps even for the very first time, our deepest connection with the person that he was and what it is that he stood for. My good friend, colleague and fellow South African of Swazi and German descent, Muna Jem, calls herself an atheist, and I call her an agnostic, LOL. She currently lives in Germany and visits South Africa once in every few months. When Madiba died, her and I shared an extraordinary journey during those 10 days, even though she was thousands of kilometers away. One of the things that we discussed was what she referred to as a crisis of faith as a result of Tata's passing away. I refuse and just cannot believe that he is now just gone, that he is now no more in any sphere, she said. He must be all around us. But what does that then say about my lack of belief? Mona's words say something about the powerful transformative experience that Tata put us through in that portal of time. That time made me understand and affirm the fact that we as a nation were experiencing the rare privilege of hanging on to the coattails of a truly great soul. For it is only a truly great soul who, even though he had gone away in the flesh, had tangibly and authentically left us with his spirit. And we have got to believe that it is this present spirit which is now given more purely than ever before, whilst containing powerful nutrients that continue to both nourish and stretch our minds and our souls today. It was the monk Ronald Rolheiser who stated that we are not only asked to give of our lives to those whom we love, we are also asked, in a manner of speaking, to also give them our deaths. What a request! It is one that is not answered by many of us who are mere mortals, as we often view death as an enemy and not as a friend. However, it was more than adequately answered by Madiba, who was and is a part of the contingent of the best that our nation has had to offer to ourselves, and to the world. Let me then end off where I began, because it bears repeating. Tata loved us, and for, in, and through that love, he gave us not only his life, but he also gave us his death. Enkosi, Tata.